Hello everybody! Infinite Shinjo here, and welcome to a first part of a wrap-up video on my channel. Let's try that again. Welcome to part 1 of a 2-part series where I discuss the anime that I watched over this spring season. I don't know how I'm going to title this, but that's basically what it is. This first part that you're watching now is going to discuss all the anime that are new from this season, both seasonal anime as well as continuing anime like Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, Pokemon, and Black Clover. Then when part 2 comes out, that's going to discuss anime that I watched during the time frame of the spring anime, but isn't new. Like for example, I watched K-On! Through this season, but it's not from this season. It's from a previous season, but I'm just watching it for the first time now. I'll try to keep my thoughts brief on each season, especially in the second part, because the second part is a lot of shows that I need to cover. But without further ado, let's get into this part, and the first one that I'm going to discuss is Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. I'm not going to cover the whole entire show. Actually, as a matter of fact, I have no notes written down for any of these, first part and second part, so it's all going to basically come from my head. But the starting point that I'm going to discuss with Vrains is from Season 2. I don't know what episode it starts with, but basically when they had the new opening, when Soul Burner came in, all this stuff. And at the point that I am watching, the last episode that I watched was when Bowman said, "Hey, I'm the real playmaker, you're just a copy." So this video is probably going to come out after the next episode, so just to give you a frame of reference from the last episode that I watched. And honestly with Vrains, it's kind of a mixed bag. On the one hand, I like how they're handling some of the duels, especially with Yusaku using fusion monsters and ritual monsters. It brings everybody to the question of, is he going to use a synchro monster? Is he going to use an XCs? But the problem that I have with it primarily lies within Soul Burner. And honestly, just from a character perspective, I like his design, I like his deck, but the way they're handling him is not what I like. To shorten it, here's basically Soul Burner as a character. He meets up with Yusaku, they more or less become friends. They go and try and find Kusanagi's brother's memories from when they were stolen. He duels Go, beats Go, duels Blue Angel / Blue Girl, beats Blue Girl. And that's where I draw the line with him. Cause he honestly, actually I'm gonna try and find the video before I upload this, but in one of X the Dark One's videos where he discusses Vrains, he basically calls Soul Burner a Mary Sue, which basically true. He just comes in more or less out of nowhere, and he's beating everybody. Now that sort of thing is the same with Yusaku as well. I don't think he's actually lost a duel in the series yet, but he has drawn. But out of the 2 duels that Soul Burner has been in, he's won both of them. And especially with the more recent one, which I heard that a lot of people are really getting over and upset about Vrains with. It's just like, they built Blue Girl up, and she says stuff like, "I learned from my last duel, I added cards to my deck to try and adapt," and she still loses. Not gonna fault her for that, but it's more or less what I would like to call the Ignis curse. Basically put, whenever a character is dueling, if they have an Ignis by their side, they're gonna win. Now with the more recent episode with Bowman saying, "I'm not interested in your Ignis," that makes me wonder, is Yusaku still gonna win even if the Ignis isn't on the line? Or would that even make a difference? I don't know. Vrains is kind of a mixed bag at the moment, because Soul Burner's just coming in and wrecking house with everything. And I'm not entirely sure which direction the plot is going, so I guess at this point I just have to wait to see what's going to happen. Next topic is Pokemon Sun and Moon. And it's actually funny that I go from Vrains to this, because while Vrains is a mixed bag for me, Sun and Moon, I can imagine, is still a mixed bag for a lot of people. Primarily for the art style and I guess what they're doing with the show? I don't know. I don't hear people complaining about the show, more or less the art style. But I'm going to start with Sun and Moon from basically when the Ultra Beast arc does start, because that's more or less Season 2 of it, if you would call it that. And honestly, I'm enjoying it. Even the episodes that are filler, I can't remember if the Pissimian episode was this season or the previous one. I think it was from this season, because I made a video discussing, is Ash gonna get Pissimian? But honestly, even the filler episodes I'm enjoying. The Pissimian episode, I guess you wouldn't really call the episode where Ash's Litten evolves filler, because something does happen. But I can find something that I enjoy from all the episodes of Pokemon recently. That might be because I'm loving Pokemon a lot, especially with Sun and Moon making a more comical route. I don't know. But even the more recent Minior episode, I thought they were pushing the envelope when they had Stoutland die, but they're having Minior die now, and Rayquaza basically eating them. Who knew? And that's one thing I like about Pokemon, at least the more recent one. I don't know as much from the older one off the top of my head, but they do work the Pokemon in different areas. Like, I watched a video, I think it was KG Prestige, I can't remember who discussed the Minior episode, but basically, the reason Rayquaza shows up at the end of the episode is because one of his Pokédex entries says he eats Stardust. Or something like that. Basically, he's eating the Minior. And I didn't know that, and I like how they use the Pokédex entries to kind of make the Pokemon be shown in a different light. Now, even with all this, there is still a thing about what is going on with the Ultra Beast, because they've only had 3 episodes dedicated to them. One with Xurkitree and Blacephalon, one with Celesteela, and one with Buzzwole. And at the moment, it just doesn't seem like they have a clear direction of what they're going with, other than fighting Ultra Beast of the Week. But to be fair, a lot of shows do take a bit to even start out. So I can't really fault Sun and Moon for not having a clear direction, because the episodes are still enjoyable to me. Now, next is what everybody has been hyping up this season. My Hero Academia Season 3. And more or less, the only thing they have been hyping up is All Might vs. All for One. And since that did just happen in the episodes, then I can finally talk about it. And from what I'm seeing, this is basically the part of the series where all the manga readers are just rubbing their hands together waiting for everybody else to catch up to it. And honestly, I've been really enjoying Season 3. There were times that the pacing is kind of strange. There are some points that they focus on too much, there are some points that they don't focus enough on. Like, even Aoyama just hiding in the bushes when the League of Villains attack the training ground. He's just there for like 1 or 2 scenes, finally does something. I would like that if they would have tried to build that up a little bit. I don't know. I guess when you only have so many episodes to do all this with, you do have to make cuts somewhere. But, I don't know. I liked it, but I feel like I shouldn't even bother saying that because I can imagine everybody else is already thinking that. So instead, I'll go on to a sleeper hit from this season, Comic Girls. I already did discuss Comic Girls in a previous video, but to basically sum up my thoughts, Comic Girls is one of those shows that I don't really want to compare it to this, but I can kind of see similarities with A Place Further in the Universe. Because it's a group of 4 girls and more or less adventures. Now, of course, the plots are drastically different, but the whole heartwarming moments in Comic Girls makes me really enjoy it. And I'm really upset that it's kind of been overlooked from this season, because with My Hero Academia Season 3 and the new Steins Gate and other stuff like that I can't remember if people were talking about that more than Comic Girls. I don't know. I guess it might sound a bit hipster of me to say Comic Girls is underrated, but honestly it really is. Now, of course, it is still that sort of cutesy anime, so take with that what you will. But I really enjoyed it. Next is Tada-kun Never Falls in Love. Now, funny enough, I used the opening of this show in one of my fan-made openings recently, and somebody commented saying something like, I watched this show, and somebody else asked me what the show is about. And that's kind of cool how some of my videos do make people think, maybe I should watch this, but that might sound like a bit of bragging. But back to Tada-kun. I like this show. I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record when I'm saying this, but the show was very interesting. Of course, I saw the plot twist of Teresa being a princess way down the line, even in like the first episode. Well, probably not first episode, maybe at least halfway through. But the way they ended it was kind of there. It wasn't great, it wasn't horrible, it was just down the middle. I like how they tried to wrap up everything, but I feel like they did it in a sort of weird way. I don't know, I feel like they could have done it in a better direction, but I can't really fault them, because I can imagine that when you're working on a show, you gotta have an idea of how you end it, and since I have no experience with that, I have not as much room to say. But if we're talking about anime that had a confusing ending, look no further than Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku. And yeah, basically the ending of it is just them. From the very first episode, the two main characters decide, okay, let's get together. And then the next 12 episodes are just them hanging out, learning about each other, all these references. And I do like the references, but it's just that there's not really any clear tension, I guess to call it. I'm not sure if I could think of any better ending, but I'm gonna try. Maybe something like somebody might move to a different area and they're worried I might not be able to see you again, and then find out at the end either it's a misunderstanding or they say, screw it, I'm not gonna move there, I'm gonna stay with you, whatever. Just at least have some tension, because I was watching the last episode and I was just confused, thinking, is this how it's ending? Another way they might have been able to handle it is have the two meet at the very first episode. And the reason now I'm just calling them the two or the group is because I can't remember their names and I don't want to pause to look up. But it would have been cool to see them reunite in the first episode and then grow a bond back throughout the rest of the show, and then at the very end they get together. That's honestly the only real complaint that I have with it. It was still an enjoyable ride, it was just confusing how they ended it. But next is Hina Matsuri. And honestly, I'm gonna call it right now. I'm saying it in a video so I have proof. Out of the anime from this season, I'm calling it Hina Matsuri is my favorite of all of them. It's just so gosh darn funny. And even the premise of it, even the first episode, Nita is just at home after a long day, I can't remember what it was, whatever he was doing. And then Hina just falls down, and literally he looks at that and he just starts walking away and saying, well, this is a dream, I'm just gonna walk away and by the time I come back it'll be gone. Especially with Hina Matsuri and other comedy-based shows, I just love them because after a long day of work or whatever else I'm doing, it's just cool to watch that and just take a load off. Kind of in the same boat of Tada-kun, I feel like they could have handled the ending better because they introduced Mao very late into the show and she somehow makes it to civilization, meets up with somebody that knows Hina, and then in the very last episode they go to see Hina, but we don't get to see any clips of those two meeting at all. Although one thing I did like is it made me go back to the very first episode, because the episode 1 opens up with Mao grown up fighting against the people that she's basically training with or something like that. And honestly, I didn't even catch that in the very first episode, and I completely forgot about that. So I like how they did bring that point back up at the very last episode. At least keep some continuity. Next anime is Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. Now, the interesting part about this one is I can't really say for certain much about it because it's not done yet. There's still one episode left that I haven't watched, but I wanted to get this recorded and get my thoughts out, and then if there's anything else that I can add after watching the last episode, then I can just add it in while I'm rendering the video. But being my first introduction into Sword Art Online, it was a very good show. I haven't watched the regular SAO, but I know that a lot of people didn't like it just because the main character was so overpowered. But I like how they do that with Len, but not make it kind of obvious. Like, her thing is she can run fast, but they don't use that to make it seem like, oh, she's so overpowered nobody can stop her, because there are still some times where people get the upper hand. I'm going to go ahead and put this out in the open now, because I know that by the time this video comes out, then the show is already going to be done. I did see on Wikipedia that, what's her name? The one that Len has to kill at the end of the show. I can't remember her name. Pitahui. I did see something on there about how she's like the singer that Len likes or something like that. And at first I was thinking, okay, that could be true, but I'm not going to say anything yet until the final episode is out. And considering that I saw that from Wikipedia, a place that anybody can edit, not entirely reliable to even say something like that. But if that ends up being true, that's a nice touch to bring everything together. And if not, I'm curious to see how they're going to handle it if it's not like that. And last is Black Clover. And there's honestly not much for me to say about Black Clover. Nothing that I haven't mentioned already. It's been decent. Nothing overly spectacular yet. I do like the twist with how they make one of the high-ranking officials possibly a traitor. I haven't watched the episode where they say, okay, you're the traitor, because the episode I just watched this past week, they just said, oh, by the way, one of you is a traitor, and the episode ends. So I really hope that they mention who the traitor is, just because I'm curious. I could see a lot of them being a traitor, but I don't want to get into that because nobody wants to watch Black Clover theories, I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen many Black Clover theories, probably because not a lot of people like it, but whatever. That's a different video that I'm probably not going to make. But, I don't know, Black Clover has been fine. It's a nice show to watch just after a rough day, but as far as plot, any other show could do it. And honestly, Black Clover is just one of those guilty pleasure shows that I watch. So, yeah. But that covers my Spring 2018 video, part 1 of 2. Next part will probably be out the week after, if not somewhere around that time. So let me know what you think about any of the anime that I discussed in this video, and hopefully next part won't be as long because there's at least twice as many anime that I need to discuss in that video. So yeah, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe so you don't miss any other anime videos. And I will see you in the next video. Have an awesome day, everybody. 365日分の学びをカバンに詰め込んでいつもみたいまた